Hello, my name is Phil Taprogger from Informatica Global Customer Support. In this video, I'm going to show you how to configure resilience for JMS connections in PowerCenter. We will first have a quick look at what resilience is, then discuss the limitations and configuration requirements, and then I'm going to show you a quick demo of how this is set up. By default, any JMS error encountered by PowerCenter when a session runs will cause that session task to fail. That is because PowerCenter has no way to determine whether a JMS error returned by the server indicates a transient condition or a permanent problem. When resilience is configured, it allows the JMS connection to be re-established when certain errors occur. Some common errors are already covered by default, but you can add any custom error that you want PowerCenter to treat as transient. Please note that resilience is only available for JMS sources. If an error occurs while writing to a JMS target, much like with a failure on any other target, that will cause the session to fail. Each JMS provider error that you want to use as a transient condition has to be configured individually, and a session has to run with recovery strategy resume from last checkpoint for any resilience setting to be taken into account. To show you a quick demo, I have created this simple pass-through mapping that reads from a JMS source and writes the messages to a flat file target. I have created a simple workflow that runs this session and configured it to read 5 messages at a time from the queue and then succeed. If we run this, as you can see, the workflow succeeds, 5 messages have been consumed and written to a flat file. Now to demonstrate, I will disable the JMS queue that this workflow reads from. Now when we run the workflow again, that will fail. If we now have a look at the session log, we will be able to see the error that was encountered. Right here. It is these error messages that we can configure to be treated as transient errors and the connection re-established. The easiest way to do this is to look at the error code. And in this case, to be as specific as possible, I have decided to use the linked exception with the error code MQJE001. This is the IBM MQ error code indicating that the queue the process was trying to read from is disabled. Now, in order to set this up for resilience, we need to first look at the connection to the JMS server itself. JMS connections are application connections. Here it is. The important things to note here are this setting here, the retry connection error code file name, and by default this is configured to be pm JMS Con error.properties found in the server bin folder on the Informatica server. This file contains all the error codes that should be retried if they are encountered. The second important setting is the connection retry period, which by default is set to 30 seconds, meaning that if any of the errors in the properties file is encountered while reading from a JMS queue, the server will try to re-establish and reread from that queue for 30 seconds before failing the session task. We'll set this to 120 seconds to give us a little more time. Now we need to set up recovery for the session. The recovery strategy by default is fail task and continue workflow. We're going to change this to resume from last checkpoint. Finally, we need to add our custom error code to the connection error properties file on the server itself. This file is found by default in infahome server bin. When we edit it, we will see it is a key value file containing the names of the errors on the left and the error codes to be covered on the right. We're going to add a new line here. We're going to call this IBM MQ get disabled, and the error message we want to ignore is the error code we noted earlier, MQJE001. You can use any string or substring from the error message as it appears in the session log, but it makes the most sense to concentrate on error codes where they are available to make the setting as specific to the error you want to catch as possible. Now that the file has been saved, we can run this workflow again. Looking at Workflow Monitor, you will see that it now no longer immediately fails. Instead, it remains running and will do so until the connection retry period is expired. So, assuming that our JMS problem is now over, let's go and re-enable the queue. And once that setting is applied and the queue re-enabled, the workflow succeeds, having successfully re-established the connection to the JMS provider. Let's have a look at the session log. One thing to look out for is if I can find it, this line here. A message with the error code JMS 2073 is logged in the session log, indicating that resilience for the JMS reader is enabled for this session. This line will show you that the configuration has been set up properly and that any error covered in the properties file we looked at will be retried. Now if we look further down in the session log, we will actually see the failed connection attempts that were re-established while the queue was disabled. Finally, when the queue was re-enabled, the session continued, consumed 5 messages from the queue, and succeeded. That is the end of the demo. You can find detailed instructions on everything that we have just covered in knowledge base document 115360 in the knowledge base. And if you have any questions or suggestions for us, you can email to supportvideos@informatica.com, or you can follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much. I hope you found this presentation helpful.